13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird is a much anthologized poem which expresses Stevens's ideas on the nature and the use of metaphor. The theme of the poem is this: human perception of reality keeps varying. The human mind is not the only center of human perception, but one among many. The title of the poem symbolizes the infinite variety of attitudes which the mind adopts when it perceives reality. This variety is limited by time and therefore by death. 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird is one of the three important poems of death and nothingness, and included in the volume Harmonium. Like The Snowman, another poem, this poem also begins and ends in the snow, and the permanence of the blackbird in this destructive element makes it chief instance of a character who has indeed a mind of winter. The poem begins in a cold, sublime setting. The speaker or onlooker is moved or disturbed by the eye of the blackbird. The speaker is made self conscious by little blackbird's eye. He is not so much looking at the bird as being looked at by it. In stanza 2, the speaker looks at himself. It is a troubled look. The bird has troubled his consciousness so that a bird sits alien and intrusive on each of the three branches of a tree. These birds are objects of knowledge to which the life sap of the tree contributes nothing. They are not leaves of blossoms or fruit. In stanza 3, the autumn winds blow the blackbirds out of the speaker's mind, or if the winds are not so powerful, then there is a conflict between the blackbird and winds, such that the internal fury is externalized. The autumn winds would also blow the leaves out of the speaker's mind. Death comes to every living thing. Death of the blackbird would seem to parallel that of the speaker. When the speaker and his senses die, so will the blackbird. Further, the blackbird is no more real than the speaker. The speaker's mind and the bird are imitations of something real. They are both phenomena which enact some kind of dumb show or pantomime. This show will not declare itself, but it is an imitation of something. It responds to something outside itself. The bird may be an alien squatter in the mind tree and known only in the mind, but it, like the mind, is apparently at the mercy of death. Something must sustain them and make them as they are, just as something like a cold wind brings their existence to an end. The speaker need worry about his own death and not about the blackbird. Stanza 4 begins with a proposition about life. Quote, a man and a woman are one, unquote. This is a perfect example of what in another poem Stevens calls sexual myth. But just as sexual union makes two lovers feel that they are eternally one, the blackbird, which is an equally primary fact of life, shows itself to be part of the unity. Quote, a man and a woman and a blackbird are one, unquote. So another action begins just as the ominous look of the blackbird punctured the sublime unity of the speaker and 20 snowy mountains. Now the blackbird intrudes into the harmony of love. In stanza 5, intrusion causes the speaker to reflect, and the speaker finds now he is of two minds rather than three. He does not know whether he wants palpable form or impalpable meaning. This question arises because the blackbird must have contributed something in its unity with the man and the woman. This something could be sensible aspect of sex, or it could be something beyond sensible aspect. Stanza 6 disposes of the second probability by sending the blackbird out of the room. The speaker is inside a winter-bound room and the blackbird shows only his shadow. The room is the mind, altogether bounded by perceptions. Beyond them, in the window of reality, there is only a transparent world of icicles, bare herbs saying, bar, 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 bar. This might be the Newtonian universe of measurable qualities, that is, all that the external world presents intelligibly to the glassed in understanding. But the blackbird is still palpable even when lost to direct perception and made to fly between the sun and the window of perception, because it still casts a shadow. The protracted glassed in paranoid mood traces in the shadow, caught an indecipherable cause uncaught. All that one can depend on internally is a mood and a perception, and they both point to a cause that will not declare itself. All that the external world presents is meaningless measurable qualities, meaningless in any effort to find an ultimate meaning. So a palpable quality remains regnant, that quality being a mood and a shadow, a perception with its own characteristic charge of feeling. Thus, the speaker becomes of one mind. What the blackbird contributes to the unity of sex is its palpable quality. In the strength of this certainty, the speaker becomes active. He scolds some Puritan ascetics who have visions of golden birds, and tells them that what they are really looking for is the palpable quality of sex. Referring to the self delusion which the speaker points out in stanza 7, he now finds two seemingly conflicting attitudes. Unlike then men who know divine accents, the speaker knows accents which are only noble, that is, they remain human. And like the thin man of Hadam, he knows lucid, inescapable rhythms. But very much unlike the thin man, he knows that the blackbird is involved in all knowledge. From this conclusion, he can further conclude in stanza 9 that the palpable marks the horizons of everybody's experience. When the blackbird is disappearing over the horizon of the speaker's circle of knowledge, it is entering somebody else's horizon. Now that the speaker no longer has a sense of his mind's being divided within itself, he has a sense of being separated from other minds. But in stanza 9, he also has a sense of his mind having something in common with other minds. That something is the palpable, that is, the blackbird. The speaker can see at the edge of his circle the same blackbird that others can see at the edges of theirs. Stanza 10 discusses something like an experiment in empathy. The broads or prostitutes of euphony concentrate only in the pleasant aspects of sense experience, and they do not even bother to project those pleasant aspects into a golden heaven. Those prostitutes are very far from the then men of Hadam and from the speaker. Yet the speaker speaks confidently of what those prostitutes would do if they saw blackbirds caught flying in a green light uncaught. He examines how his experience differs from and coincides with the experience of the thin men of Hadam, and then imagines how painful it would be for people who indulge in their senses as thoroughly as prostitutes of euphony do, to encounter a raw, stark fact like the blackbird. The prostitutes would cry out sharply, and this sharpens enters his customary reflection as a fear so thoroughly understood that he can refer to himself as he rather than as I, as he has done at regular intervals till now. As that of the bawds or prostitutes of euphony, the speaker is able to look at himself as at another person. He sees himself as being afraid or breaking up his elegant, mobile and fragile mind roam. He sees himself as projecting that fear into whatever is palpable about the mind itself. Caught the shadow of his equipage, uncaught. This situation here is the reverse of stanza 6, where he was watching the shadow of the blackbird on the icicle filled window. All his knowledge is thrown into doubt. Possibly he knows nothing about the blackbird by observation, but we notice that he is able to tell the difference between the shadow of his equipage and blackbirds. And he must be observing himself from some point of view from which this difference can be perceived. And because his point of view cannot be one from which he can observe the blackbird directly, he must be seeing himself from the point of view of the blackbird itself. In stanza 12, the speaker is at one with that alien fact, namely the blackbird, and the moving, reflecting element is no longer his mind but a river. All that he could be sure of in the experience of riding over Connecticut in a glass coach was that he was moving. If he distrusts his fear of breaking his mind, he is left with a simple transparent flux, a river. He knows that if the river is moving, the blackbird must be flying. It is either a logical inference or a pictorial necessity, but his certainty shows that he has permanently identified himself with the blackbird. In stanza 12, the speaker suggests that he will die, but the blackbird will go on. The darkness will continue to get darker and darker. The snowfall will continue, but the blackbird will sit in the evergreen cedar tree, a relentless ever black. We are back to where the speaker began. The blackbird has been called long enough to have a mind of wonder. Indeed, the blackbird is the kind of character that Stevens was afterwards to call the necessary angel of earth. Stevens's poem on the subject of death and nothingness are caught Domination of Black, uncaught, caught The Snowman, uncaught, and caught 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, uncaught. He wants to explain that reality has a quality of blackness or coldness or both. The effect of this quality is one of death or nothingness. Though this quality is palpable, it remains constant and dominant while all flesh fall, freezes, melts, rises and falls. It is nameless or closely bound up with something. Such as the blackbird, it cannot be extracted. The absolute correctness gives to death or nothingness an absolute wildness. The human mind cannot tame this quality. The mind is drawn into the gulf and passes through a cycle of forms, which are sometimes hard and brittle as if made of glass or ice, and sometimes broken up and melted down and flowing like a river.